Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. This is a library tour where we go through my books, book by book, shelf by shelf, bookcase by bookcase, forever. Every book I have, every book I ever have had, every book I have on ebook. It was, the library tour of Doom was originally conceived by myself and Lord Ganesha. And in every video, you could see Lord Ganesha in the video, in the old filming setup that I have. I'm only sorry that he can't join me in these current videos. I feel that spiritually he's probably watching. But I will come up with a filming location that allows him to make an appearance, definitely. This filming location is not permanent, so he can't join us at the moment, but he'll be back. But for today, because it's Wednesday, and that's comic book day here in the United States, I thought I would show you a comic book collection for today. Our book today is Second Genesis by Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum and John Byrne. This is part of Marvel's Epic Collection line, which is full-color reprints of older issues. In this case, older issues starting with Giant Size X-Men #1. That is the famous cover of Giant Size X-Men #1. And it pretty much tells you what you're getting in this relaunch. This was a relaunch of Marvel X-Men. The original Marvel X-Men team appeared in the 1960s. You can see them in the background there. There was Hank McCoy, the Beast, who had the strength and agility of a humanoid gorilla. There was Warren Worthington III, the Angel, who was a normal person with big white wings that allowed him to fly. There was Scott Summers, Cyclops, whose eyes emit incredibly powerful red energy beams. There was Bobby Drake, Iceman, who could cover himself with first snow and then ice and also project ice, ramps and projectiles and whatnot. And there was Jean Grey, Marvel Girl, who was at first telekinetic, but also then became telepathic and could read minds. And that original team, they were teenagers, they were mutants born with special abilities, who were students at Charles Xavier's School for Gifted Youngsters in Westchester, New York, where he taught them to refine and control their abilities, and also taught them philosophy, his own philosophy. Charles Xavier was also a mutant, and his dream was that mutants and humans could peacefully coexist. But the tagline for the X-Men was that they protect a world that hates and fears them. And that element, where the X-Men weren't just another super team, they were mutants. They were a mutant super team, so they faced not only supervillains, but also societal prejudice. That theme became more pronounced in the course of the X-Men run, but there were no sales. And eventually the X-Men book became a reprint title and then went out of print, just disappeared. And years later was brought back by Chris Claremont, who re-envisioned the team to include Cyclops. He's still there. But a big new cast of characters. There was Wolverine from Canada, who had appeared in an issue of The Incredible Hulk. There was Nightcrawler, Thunderbird, Cyclops from the Soviet Union, Storm from Africa, and Banshee, who had been a villain in the old X-Men series from Ireland, and Sunfire from Japan. These were the original recruits of this new X-Men team that was, in the first issue, the Giant Size X-Men #1, recruited to save the old team that had gone missing. And it was a hit. The relaunched, all new, all different X-Men was a hit. And the original team there on the right-hand side sort of went away, except for Jean Grey and Scott Summers. And they meshed with the new team, some whose members went away. Thunderbird died. Sunfire from Japan went back to Japan, didn't want to be a part of the team anymore. And they had a bunch of adventures. And Chris Claremont was on fire here. Dave Cockrum did fantastic artwork at the beginning, including, let me get you the climactic moment. Of course, some of you are going to know already the moment that I'm going for. Dave Cockrum was one of my favorite Marvel artists anyway, but he brought back Magneto, the X-Men's first villain. Terrific villain, fantastically done. And this series goes on It includes all of the issues that Dave Cockrum did as the artist with Chris Claremont. Really great, detailed artwork. Cockrum is really good at drawing different kinds of aircraft. He gets their details really well done, and he's really good at melodrama. He's really good at hyper emotional scenes. But eventually he left, and eventually once he left, John Byrne took over. The artist John Byrne took over. Very different style, far more epic, far more refined than Dave Cockrum, and took it to new heights. Chris Claremont just kept going, and this collection, this paperback collection, collects all of the Chris Claremont and Dave Cockrum issues, and a few of the John Byrne issues. We get some of Dave Cockrum's original sketches for some of these characters, some of whom, the appearance of some of whom had gone back decades for him. We get side issues, like for instance Marvel Team Up, that includes Havoc, who was the brother of Scott Summers. Any guest appearance like that in a Spider-Man annual or whatever where the X-Men show up, we get those too, included in this volume. And we also get a rather famous moment, a rather famous issue, X-Men 101, when Jean Grey is bombarded by cosmic radiation and reborn as a character called the Phoenix. But the Phoenix is famous in X-Men lore for a storyline that occurs after this volume. Chris Claremont and John Byrne did the saga of the Phoenix, including the Dark Phoenix, where Jean Grey's power overwhelms her moral sense, in a pattern very familiar to Marvel superheroes. Female Marvel superheroes, especially the ones written by Chris Claremont, tend to lose control of their superpowers and become dangerous to everyone around them. Let's not dig too deeply into that. But this volume is terrific. I love these epic volumes. I think these epic collections are great. They're just fantastic. They're so much easier to pick up and read, so much cheaper, half the cost of the Marvel Masterworks series that are these reprints in hardcover, and also less litigious. So you, in the Marvel Masterworks series, you won't get side stuff like an issue of Iron Fist where the X-Men guest star. You won't get that in the Marvel Masterworks, and typically speaking, and you usually will in these epic collections. So I'm very glad to grab this. And Second Genesis, the return of the X-Men, passes the greatest acid test of them all for comic books. It's intensely rereadable. Intensely so, in a way that their epic collections for some earlier X-Men adventures, they aren't as rereadable. They aren't as revisitable. And this is, I don't know if it's true for everybody, but I can read these things over and over again and enjoy them. So that is your book for today's Library Tour of Doom. It is Second Genesis. The return of the X-Men will be familiar to a lot of you comic book fans out there. It really was the beginning of of a whole age of new comics in the mighty Marvel manner. So that's it for today. This has artwork all throughout. It's all full color. It's got the beautiful Dave Cockrum cover there on the front, and you've got a beautiful Gil Kane cover there on the back. Look at that. How lovely. That's a scene from X-Men 94, the first regular issue that resumed the numbering of the old canceled issue, where the X-Men are in one of their planes when it is disabled from the ground, and suddenly they're 1,000 feet up in the air and have to figure out what to do. That's the logistics of a superhero team. How many flyers do you have? How are you able to survive if you are suddenly deplaned at 1,000 feet? And the X-Men have to face that. Banshee, for instance, his sonic powers give him the ability to fly, but he's in his 50s when this comic starts. And as the X-Men are in the air, they are falling, and Banshee tells Cyclops, the team leader, I don't have enough lift to carry 2 grown people. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to come back. I'm going to have to make 2 trips. Storm can harness the winds to fly, so she can carry 1 full-grown person. But Nightcrawler, for instance, has the ability to teleport from one place to another, but he somehow manages, despite the fact that he's in free fall, he somehow manages to tell Cyclops that he can't teleport to the ground because the law of conservation of energy means that he will appear at the ground at the speed that he's traveling now. He'll die either way. Storm can still carry him, but that still leaves too few flyers to carry people. Storm can carry Nightcrawler, and maybe Wolverine, but what about Cyclops, and et cetera, et cetera. And Colossus makes a startling decision. he tells his teammates that he doesn't need anyone to carry him. He will transform into his metal skinned form and just fall to the ground. They think he's crazy. They think he's certainly going to die, but it doesn't scratch him in the least. And what we know, it wasn't true now. It wasn't true 40 years ago when this issue came out, issue 94 of the X-Men. But what we know now about Wolverine is that he would have survived as well. At the time these issues came out, he was still a work in progress. He was still sort of being figured out by Chris Claremont. He was trying to figure out, what exactly is he and what exactly are his powers. It was kind of well known here when these issues came out that he had some sort of healing factor, but not the healing factor that we know that he has now. The Wolverine in that scene today would, just like Cyclops, say, "Just let me fall. It's not going to kill me, so just let me fall." But in these issues, it wasn't. Claremont hadn't quite figured that out. In fact, there's one scene: the X-Men have been captured by the bad guys who hate mutants, and they're examining them. And one of the technicians in this famous scene says, "I don't know, sir. This Wolverine, is he a mutant? He readings are like none of the others." And the main character says, "Well, the Sentinels, these mutant hunting robots, say that he's a mutant, so he is a mutant. If they say he is, then he is one." But the technicians have no idea what Wolverine is. He doesn't read like anything else. And you'll notice he's been stripped of his shirt. And when the villain strikes Jean Grey, Wolverine goes crazy and unsheaths his claws and pulls out of his restraints. And that scene right there looks like nothing. It looks like, if you just started reading comics or if you know the X-Men from the movies, you're not going to think anything of that. But I'm here to tell you, when readers were reading this issue at the time, when it was brand new and the ink would come off on your fingers, and they got to this panel, they were stunned. I was stunned. And I thought the exact same thing as the X-Men do in the next scene when things calm down. Banshee says, "Your claws, laddie, Lord above, they're a part of you. We didn't know." That's absolutely true. We had no idea. Readers had no idea that Wolverine's claws came out of his body. That was awesome. That was an awesome moment. But anyway, I've gone on too long about the X-Men, so I'm going to stop. That is your Library Tour of Doom for today. I'm only sorry that Lord Ganesha could not join us, but maybe next